Welcome to Tennis Podcast. I'm Nick Amell. Every episode, my sidekick host and I dive deep into a fact-based top 10-ish list. One of us has the research and random trivia, while the other guesses the list on the spot. Can you guess the list better than we can? Let's get to the show. Look back over the past, with its changing empires that rose and fell, and you can foresee the future, too. That is a quote from listener of the show and Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Brad crosses his arms in approval. Today we're going to take Marcus's advice and look to the past. But before that, let me welcome my special guest sidekick host, Brad Choma, who the listeners don't know this, but we're on minute like 48 here of Brad getting his IT situation sorted over there.
Yeah, it was a good time.
So I'm already exhausted and we haven't even started.
Tell me the topic.
Why?
Tell me the topic. Announce it.
Oh my God. Listeners, Brad has been texting me throughout the week, trying to get me to break the rules of my own show and tell him the topic in advance because he's so worried, he's so vain that he's going to look foolish in his guesses. But Brad, you're going to do great.
Okay, let's go.
Well, I'm purposely making you wait. Hey, how's the weather over there?
It's dark. It's dark outside.
And I'll bet it's fucking cold too because you're in Canada.
That's right.
Bradley, how would you describe the Canadian Empire?
Canadian Empire?
Yeah.
What the hell is a Canadian Empire?
Is Canada known for conquering the lands and people of other territories and claiming it for themselves? Is that part of Canada's rich history?
Only our own. We've eaten our own.
Yeah. I ask you this because I have one more thing to tell you, and that's that have you heard of the popular meme from last year where women were asking the men in their life how often they think about the Roman Empire?
I am aware. I
remember
did
that?
Come across it. Yep.
Okay. Well, I did ask that exact question to my followers on Instagram. You can follow me at @TheNickAmell. I said, how often do you really think about the Roman Empire? Daily, weekly, every few months, or almost never? What would you guess the average person on Instagram selected?
I'm going to say it's high. What were those higher options again? All the time? Almost, no, daily.
Daily or weekly?
I'll say daily or weekly.
Weekly got 45% of the votes. But the second place getter was almost never at 27%.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Daily is a lot, but definitely weekly.
Yeah?
Like somewhere between daily and weekly.
What brings it up for you? What sparks it off for you?
Just like pretty much every reference in history goes back to the Roman Empire for me. Like I'm so fascinated by it. And honestly, the inspiration for all this was I went to Rome like a month ago and I saw the Colosseum and all the shit for the first time. And it inspired me to learn more about the Roman Empire, but also other empires. And I'm ready to introduce today's topic with that, if you're ready to receive today's topic.
Go ahead. Hurry up. just say it.
Okay. Today, you're guessing the most powerful empires in human history.
Okay.
But you're a student of history, aren't you? You're going to do fine. What are you so worried about?
Because I never took world history, so this will be interesting. I mean, the history, the world.
You never took world history?
I did take world history, but they teach you world history.
Well, you just said you didn't. Which is it?
Well, it's a yes and a no, because you go to class, you get assigned the class, you show up for this class, you go to this classroom, but you're just at that age where you can't pay attention to anything, and that's when they decide to introduce history.
Brad, you run a history-adjacent podcast.
Yes.
I know you research history.
I think it just bodes terribly on my teachers. It was such a pass for me at the time in high school. And, now it's all I think about. It's, it just...
I was totally the opposite.
You used to think about it all the time, and...
I didn't give a shit about math or science, but history was the one class that could pique my interest as a kid.
Which part of history, specifically? Was it empires?
And I take it back. I when I said I didn't like science, I didn't like some science, but I did like butt science. I took butt science 101 in ninth grade, and that was fascinating for sure.
Did you do butt science with the what is it, the baby pigs or frogs?
No. They actually bring it. We dissect a human butt.
Oh, a human butt.
Can you imagine? They just
Oh my
They bring a
God.
chopped off butt to
How,
the table.
if I could ask, how old do you imagine? How old did it appear that the owners, whatever you would call it, the donors, how old do you think these butts were?
Oh, these are adult butts for
Adult
sure.
butts?
They're adult human
Human
butts.
cadaver butts.
Yeah.
So imagine you're killed in a car accident and your family misses you, and they've decided that they say, yes, of course, they're a universal organ donor. They would want to help as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, they're having the casket. They're in the casket, and the family is, oh, they look so at peace and so together.
Yeah.
And not realizing that their kidney may be missing, or their lungs may be missing, or their entire ass may be missing, and it's just
Sure.
Some kind of padded thing is holding them up.
Well, they usually bury you face up, so they don't see the ass at all. So there's no confirmation whether or not the ass is there. And I'll bet you there's a lot of these funerals that people have been to, and they don't realize the ass has already been chopped off of the body. Let's talk about this list real quick. I forgot to mention this at the top, but I'm trying something new. Brad, maybe you want to join me in this, but I got this idea from another podcast. And so I want our listeners right now listening to me, I want you to take the phone that you're listening to me on, take a screenshot of the app you're using to listen to me on, then go to Instagram, add that screenshot to your stories and tag me at 10ishpod. That's at 10ishpod. And you can also tag Brad at, I think it's Doomsday Pod, or is it Doomsday Podcast?
Yeah, Doomsday Podcast. Thank you.
Doomsday Podcast. Tag us in your Instagram story. I'm running an experiment. I'll explain some other time. But I would love to know and see what you're listening to us on. Okay, enough shit. Brad, what's an empire? Can you explain it in simple terms?
Okay, here's my best attempt. A collection of countries not connected that are ruled by some overseeing emperor or king or queen or whatever of some foreign land, like a
Close enough.
Cool, very good.
Yes, this comes from Wikipedia. An empire is a political unit made up of several territories and peoples, usually created by conquest. An empire is an aggregate of many separate states or territories under a supreme ruler or oligarchy.
Oligarchy.
Throughout history, various civilizations have sought to expand their influence and power beyond their original territory confines. With each boasting its own unique infrastructure, these vast empires offer a glimpse into how civilization has evolved over time and helped shape the modern world. And I want to underline that point because a lot of people listening might not ever think of it. I'm sure plenty do, but some don't think about the fact that although empires are a thing of the past and a lot of them are ancient history or at least very old history, the consequences of these empires are still felt to this day in society and culture. And we're going to talk about that a lot as we go.
I'm looking forward to it. So let's go.
How are you guessing the list? We will be looking at the top 10 empires in human history as determined by land area. Land area is the most precise measurement as opposed to, say, population, economy, or just power in general. And it is thus the most common measure of an empire's size. So empire size in this list is defined as the dry land area it controlled at the time. This list comes from worldatlas.com, but I also pulled some stats from Statista and study.com. And for context, number 1 on this list has land area of 13.7 million square miles. And the Earth's dry land area as a whole is around 52 million square miles.
Say that first number again. 100 and what? Say that again.
All right. I know. I threw a lot at you. So the number 1 on this list, 13 million square miles of dry land that was in its territory. 13 million. The Earth's total dry land, if you exclude Antarctica, that is 52 million square miles. So number 1, at the height of its power, had about 26% of the total world's land area.
Crazy. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That should be crazy to all of you, to everyone listening. That's very disturbing. That's really crazy. No, but think about that. Take any, doesn't even matter which, so whatever empire that you have in your head, probably the Roman Empire, because you're probably already thinking about it. Some guy wearing a tunic with a spear or whatever and a title says, do this, do that, go there, grab these guys, plant a flag, go march, build a bridge, do this, do that, blah, 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 for hundreds of years. And they take over 10% of the Earth's countries under their tutelage, for better or worse, whatever. I'm assuming worse. I always assume worse.
Always worse.
And then some crazy leader just sitting on some throne somewhere says, yeah, keep going. I want like at least a third of the entire planet, no matter what they think or believe or speak or live in or eat,
and by any means necessary.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And keep the women and children as slaves.
Jesus.
And
go on. You always take it to a really dark place.
Yeah. What's interesting too is all these empires, the height of their powers was hundreds or thousands of years ago. And so you're ruling an empire of lands that, this is obviously before the internet, before telephones, before television, before radio. Mm-hmm. You're still shitting in the street. And you have never left like your immediate area, but now you rule over land that's on the other side of the world with people that you'll never see, and you don't even know what those people are like. So it might as well be another planet. And how do you keep track of it all? And like the people you send to take China are, you won't hear from them for years in some cases. So it's all, I don't know. I just get fascinated by how information and communication used to flow in pre-modern times.
Yeah, no doubt. It's all just crazy that any of it got anywhere.
Yeah, that anybody got anywhere.
Ever. That anybody communicated with anybody over a distance ever.
Yeah. I know. It's amazing that anybody did anything outside of their immediate family and village.
Yeah.
Right? That's crazy.
So, how do you want to dig in?
Well, Bradley, you are the sumbitch guessing.
All right, okay. So I'm sitting here making notes. I have written down from memory 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's good. Except this one here, I think I might have just made up. I'm not sure this is a real thing or not. So
yeah. It's okay. I made up butt science earlier. So,
all right, fair enough. I'll start with the Roman Empire. Let's do the Roman Empire. Let's just knock that right out of the park right away.
Where generally do you think it is in the top 10?
All right, that's a good question. In my mind, it's big, and I wish
I'm going to burst your bubble here because I too would have guessed the Roman Empire, and I probably would have guessed top 5, something like that. Roman Empire, at least in the Western world, Roman Empire is by far the most famous, the most referenced, the most influential empire in our everyday lives today, at least in the part of the world we live in, again. But it's actually number 25. It's not even in the top 10.
Is that for real? Are you being honest?
Yeah, so if this was a list of empires based on population, this might be higher or closer to number 1, but we are looking exclusively at land area, as you know, and based on land area, dry land area, the Roman Empire is number 25.
Come on, man!
Although it's not in the top 10, I still brought notes on it because that's the empire most of us think of first. So the Roman Empire at its height covered about 2 million square miles or 5 million square kilometers, which is about 4% of the world's dry land area at its height. 4%. Now remember, number 1, 26%. So really, it's not even close.
Whew.
It was active between 27 BC and 476 AD. It included territories in Europe, North Africa, and Western Asia. Due to the empire's extent and endurance, its institutions and culture had a lasting influence on the development of language, religion, art, architecture, literature, philosophy, podcasts, forms of government across its territories. Latin evolved into the Roman languages, while medieval Greek became the language of the East. The empire's adoption of Christianity resulted in the formation of medieval Christendom, and that's obviously had a huge impact on the Western world to this day. The Italian Renaissance was born out of the Roman Empire. Roman architecture tradition served as the basis for a lot of architecture around the world. Many modern legal systems descend from Roman law. And Roman republican institutions have influenced many countries around the world, including the United States, with democratic elections, things like that. So a lot of things the Roman Empire did have lasted forever so far. What do you have to say to all that?
I've barely heard a word you said. You could just animate this thing saying the Roman Empire isn't a big empire. Just have it circling my head right now because that's all I heard. What did you say it was? 25th?
25th.
How many empires have there been throughout
history? Just like
history?
You're my 25th favorite person I've talked to today. The list I saw went up to the 120 something,
How many do you know?
like off the top of my head.
If you had to guess, how many?
Before I did this list, I could have guessed probably 8 or 9 of them, I bet.
Okay. Oh my God.
But so far, you're fucking doing real bad.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let me redeem myself. I'm going to start over. All right. I'm going to start with the Russian Empire
That is a great guess.
because Russia by itself is massive, just a colossal amount of land space. So it could absorb countries all day.
Yeah, do you know much about the Russian Empire?
The Russian Empire, if I am correct, is the one where Peter the Great was married to Catherine the Great, if I'm saying these correctly. And he was murdered, and it was never proven that she did it, but he was murdered with, okay, you know how you think I'm going to murder you with a pillow? Like just show up in Oklahoma with my pillow and just get that. But this guy got mattressed, and then
he got smushed under the mattress.
Yeah, they pressed him under a mattress. And
Are
then,
you making this shit up?
No,
Brad?
I'm not. Actually, I talked about this in a previous episode of my own show, Doomsday. Everybody should search History's Most Dangerous Podcast.
I'm gonna beep out that.
Okay, great.
I'm gonna beep that out.
So beep out this next part for sure, though, because then Catherine the Great is pretty much in charge. People hate her, and they start this rumor that she has sex with horses.
Oh, baby.
And the rumor really it digs in deep. It becomes a real thing. And they suggest that, oh yeah, she has all this complicated, like proto-robotic harness kind of tech in this room that helps her mount her horsey lovers.
You are so off. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
The Russian Empire. We're talking about the...
I asked you about the Russian Empire.
And I'm telling you what I know about the Russian Empire.
Catherine
as horse lovers, but that was never confirmed. I'd always, in absolute fairness, that none of this is clearly the nonsense of a hysterical crowd that hated her guts. But yeah, it persisted, and that's what most people think of her for, which is kind of sad.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. But look, some of what, there's a kernel of truth in what you said. I can't verify the rest, but the Russian Empire, it is the number 3 on this list.
3.
And you guessed it for a good reason. Russia by itself is this huge fucking land. No one fucking lives there or wants to live there, but that's another issue. But just land-wise, it's huge. And the empire itself, 8.8 million square miles or 22.8 million square kilometers.
Right.
17% at its height of total world land area. It was active. This is one of the more recent ones, 1644 to 1912, this empire. And I think Vladimir Putin is trying to reinitiate an empire here today.
Yeah, kind of.
He wants Ukraine back, right? What is that if not?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not a big political guy when podcasting, but yeah, he's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot for people to take. And he would not stop. He's not going to stop, I don't think. Unless he bankrupts himself. I mean, if history could repeat, that's what brought down the Soviet Union. They spent too much money trying to compete in the arms race, is at least the story, as I understand it.
We can hope that something like that happens, because honestly, I think by definition, if he were to recapture Ukraine, that would be the launch of a new empire. But
I think so. Because
maybe
at that
some
point,
historian out there would tell me why that's not true. But
oh, absolutely, and I'm not that historian.
No. We have established that.
I'm a historian of guts and limb injuries and
Yeah. The Russian Empire at its height, 1866 was Russian Empire at its height, and it stretched from the northernmost part of Europe and Asia all the way to present-day Afghanistan and Iran, and it went down to the eastern border of Germany as well. So it was big. The empire began in the 13th century in Moscow. Over the next 3 centuries, it grew in size until it unified the Russian people and their territories under its rule. The empire began its greatest expansion under Ivan III, also called Ivan the Great, who ruled from 1462 to 1505. tripled in size under his leadership, but by the 17th century, Russia was already the largest state in the world, but at the same time, the vast empire had a population of just 14 million people. That's nothing.
Huh.
For an empire this size, 14 million people, that is nothing.
Jesus. We have cities larger than that.
Yeah. I mean, not in rinky-dink little fucking Canada, but some places.
It's all landmass and nobody lived there? That's the problem?
Yeah, 80% of the population was peasants. Most of the population lived far apart and in rural settings. And they got left behind in the Industrial Revolution. So, but I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Peter the Great, you mentioned his ass. He transformed the empire again, fought numerous wars, and became a major European power. He moved the capital of the Russian Empire from Moscow to the new city of St. Petersburg, which was a model city he created, and they had a lot of success there. I'm going to skip down, though, but the death knell of the Russian Empire came during the First World War. Russia was fighting on the side of the Allies against Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. The Russian war effort was an abysmal failure, which caused greater discontent among the Russian populace, and at the same time, food and fuel were becoming scarce, and inflation was soaring. These bitter circumstances ultimately led to a revolt in February 1917, in which Nicholas II, the last Tsar of Russia, was forced to abdicate. He and his family were then executed. During the resulting Russian Civil War, the Bolsheviks executed the Romanov family, ending 3 centuries of their rule. And after emerging victorious in 1923, the Bolsheviks established the Soviet Union across most of the former Russian Empire. And that the Soviet Union would be there for decades until it too fell, or transitioned, however you want to say it.
Wow. That's a hell of a lot of history. And a lot of death.
I just got through 3 centuries of history in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a lot of history. Did you ever hear of a movie called The Hermitage? Have you heard of the actual Hermitage?
I don't know what the fuck you said.
It's a giant-ass building. Imagine the biggest palace you've ever heard that you could imagine. And it's in Russia. And they made a movie there detailing hundreds of years of Russian history. And they filmed it as a single shot, taking place with thousands of actors as it made its way through this building.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's sad that places like Russia in modern times is like Russia, at least for us over here in North America and other parts of Europe and stuff. It's like Russia's kind of the big bad right now, the big bad wolf, for good reason. But there is so much history and culture and art and stuff that's happening in Russia now or in the past. And it kind of just doesn't get acknowledged much because it's hard to think about Russia without thinking about the bad shit first.
Yeah.
These days.
Yeah. But it's kind of like, what is the country equivalent of separating an artist from their art?
How do I separate you from your next guest, Brad? Let it part ways with your lips.
All right. I'm just going to yell out things that I remember that have empire in them. And one of them was the Mongol Empire.
The Mongol Empire. Now, if the Russian Empire is number 3 and the Roman Empire is number 25, then where would the Mongol Empire be?
I feel like the Mongol Empire is right up there. I'm thinking top 5.
Give me a number.
I'm going to say 4.
Wow. So you guess number 4. It's a really bad guess. Like, holy shit. Because it's actually number 2.
Oh, for
God's sake. The Mongol Empire is number 2. It covered 18% of the world's dry land area at its height. But it was a relatively short-lived empire, just the 13th and 14th centuries. But so much shit came out of this. The Mongol Empire was the most extensive contiguous empire in human history. Am I saying that right? Contiguous?
There you go.
No, it's contiguous.
Yeah, just stick with contiguous.
I can't trust a fucking thing you say.
No, you really shouldn't.
Well, anyway, it was the most extensive contiguous, I know that's wrong, empire in human history. At its height, it controlled most of Asia and a large part of Europe. The empire began in 13th century when... Who was their leader, Brad?
Oh, for God's sakes. What's his name? Mongol the Han. You know who I mean? Attila. No, not Attila. Oh, my God.
No, not Attila.
Oh, Lord, help me.
This is great. I'm not giving it to you either. I'm just going to sit here and let you do it.
It's... Why can't I think of his stupid
Hitler,
name? No,
right?
it's not going to be Hitler today. No, we got to have one podcast. I don't, God help us, without Hitler in it.
That's not going to happen today, just so you know.
God for...
All right, I'm going to stop because this is painful.
It is painful.
Genghis Khan.
Thank you so much. I was just having the worst time with that. I had a complete block.
And I know some people, including Dan Carlin, will call him Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
But I say, fuck it. I'm going with Genghis because it sounds better to me.
Well, you know what?
Anyway, Genghis Khan.
I just want to say, in that amount of time, if enough people misuse your name, it's just totally passable by common usage. Let's call them whatever you want.
I agree. Like, if you've been called Genghis for 600 years, then that's kind of the name now, even if it technically was Genghis.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Isn't he the guy? He has DNA basically spread through half of the human population.
Yeah, I don't have the stat in front of me, but I've heard that before too. I don't know if it's 50%, but a large percentage of the population descended from Genghis Khan.
It's pretty weird, right?
Which is pretty remarkable.
I would think so.
Yeah, and hopefully none of us follow in Daddy's footsteps because he expanded his empire rapidly in all directions in just around 100 years' time, thanks in large part to the mobility and speed of its armies. Despite its large size, the empire remained united under one ruler for nearly a century. Genghis Khan is considered by many to be a genocidal ruler. However, Khan is also credited with a lot of good shit, too. He brought the Silk Road under one cohesive political environment. This brought relatively easy communication and trade between Northeast Asia, Muslim Southwest Asia, and Christian Europe, expanding the cultural horizons of all three areas. So, yes, Genghis Khan killed millions of people and ruined countless lives. but without him, who knows how long it would have taken for the Silk Road to kind of open up in this way, you know?
Okay.
It's kind of like Tennis Podcast. It's wreaked havoc on the ears of millions of people, but without it, how would we know that Genghis used to be called Genghis and that there was a butt science class in my high school?
Where you worked with human butts.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Some studies indicate that the Black Death, which devastated Europe in the late 1340s, may have traveled from China to Europe along the trade routes of the Mongol Empire. After a protracted siege during which the Mongol army was reportedly withering from disease, they decided to use their infected corpses as a biological weapon. They put the dead soldiers in their own army, the Mongols, they put them in a catapult, catapulted these diseased corpses over city walls. The diseased bodies exploded on impact, spreading disease all over the city. And a lot of people think that that started the Black Death plague.
Can you imagine that butterfly effect?
No.
Jesus Christ. Do you think...
Of the Black Death?
Well, do you think they must have understood, like, in the 1400s, they didn't understand germs or bacteria or hygiene.
No.
So...
Or fucking anything.
I have to imagine they didn't do it because they knew they were going to kill these people with disease when they, got exploded body splashed up into their open mouths and their unblinking eyes. I feel like they did it because they knew it was nightmare fuel and would hopefully maybe kill some people, maybe land on some people real hard, do some real damage,
Imagine walking down this shit-covered street. There's horse and human shit everywhere. You're just trying to get to the well to fill up with their nasty fucking water to take back and take your bi-monthly bath in. And on your way to the well, a fucking diseased, putrefied, puffy Mongol corpse explodes right next to you, and their guts get into your mouth and eyes. And, it's just, might be the worst thing that's ever happened. And you have to think, that alone, take away all the conquering the Mongol Empire did and the Silk Road and everything else I've talked about. Just that alone, if it's true that brought upon the Black Death plague, that changed history forever. I think it's safe to say that the Mongol Empire is the most consequential the last few thousand years, if not all of history. I don't know.
I don't know. How many people did the Black Death? Oh, it killed, a third of Europe?
Yeah, it killed, it also, let's see, the total number of deaths estimated between 75 and 200 million, with 50 million deaths in Europe alone.
Yeah, it sounds hard to compete. Yeah, it feels like a lock.
That's what you should cover on Doomsday, bro.
the Black Death and how gross it used to be?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Twice on Doom's
It'd be a big, tall task, but
I'm gonna borrow a moment of your time just to make you throw up because you brought it up and you put us in this era.
Hmm.
In ye old days when they didn't know about all this stuff and hygiene and whatnot, and you're talking about letting bodies and softening, when horses would die, there were as many horses as we had cabs in like huge cities like London.
Mm-hmm.
When a horse would just die, a horse is supposed to live into their 20s, and in these places they would live for 3 years. And then they would just keel over from one day just from exertion and working day in and day out in these terrible conditions, like with the shit in the streets, like you're talking about. They'd fall over, they'd die. You couldn't drag them because they're like, 2,000, 1,800 pounds, whatever. Yeah. So what they would do is they would cut them up because it's easier to drag them away in chunks and use the feces in the street as the lubricant to kind of slide them through. But
oh my god,
ready? But it's a lot of work to saw through a horse, through all the muscle and all the skin. So the best option is to just wait and let time do its damage. And when this thing softens up and the muscles kind of break down and the skin kind of starts to lose its cohesion and it really softens, then you can get in there with the saw and cut these things up. But
there's more.
Yeah, because it takes time for that to happen. All of the gases that are inside these horses, and believe me, these horses are not eating pasture grains. These horses are, I don't know what the hell, they're eating like rats and stuff. When they die, all of the chigungus stuff that's all fermenting in those stomachs starts to bloat.
Oh my god.
So when you were like, oh, it's, time to go to the opera, let us, make our way through the streets, you'd pass a horse, and if your timing was off, this thing would it would explode. It would just blow outwards like an IED, like a claymore in one direction. And if you were looking at it and you didn't have time to blink or react or close your mouth, that was it. You were done. You were done. You had this in you, and now it was a part of you forever, and forever was not a lot of ever because you were done. So
that is awful.
You're welcome, 10-ish listeners.
When they're waiting for these horses to soften up for cutting them, someone has to stand guard to make sure Catherine the Great isn't coming in to fuck them too when they're there. Apparently, according to you. But this one horse, and there's many of them, this one horse, imagine the smell just from that. But on top of that, you got all the other horses, you got all the other shit in the street, you got all kinds of dead stuff, you got food leftovers. People used to dump their blood out their windows and their chamber pots. It's truly amazing that humanity survived all that. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. In spite of ourselves, we're still here.
Yeah. Well, anyway, on that happy note, let me wrap up the Mongol Empire by telling you that although it was founded by Genghis Khan, it peaked its power under Kublai Khan. The key to their success in this time was its military, which was highly mobile and highly efficient. The military machine they had the ability to move much quicker than its enemy's military forces, even in harsh conditions. And effective governance also helped the Mongol Empire expand and maintain itself. One aspect of Mongol rule was the policy of tolerating the beliefs of others. Subjects of the Mongol Empire were free to practice their religions as they pleased, and that surprised me.
Yeah, I've actually heard that before.
Pretty open-minded for 1300s.
Yeah, surprisingly, considering they're putting other people's heads through walls. You know what I mean? People come to town and say, hi, your government isn't your thing anymore. We're your thing now. And, you maybe don't believe them right away. And, they just, I don't know, shove you, like sew you inside a dead horse and just wait for it to explode around you.
That's happened before.
I'm almost positive that must have happened.
One more thing that the Mongols did that I did not know until now, they had a very extensive and efficient postal system, which was used by many messengers and travelers throughout the empire, including China, the Middle East, and Europe.
Like a Pony Express style, I assume?
Yeah. so they could carry the news of the petrifying exploding horses to their neighbors in China and everywhere else in the empire.
Fantastic. We've always loved this
Isn't that great?
awful news. Yeah. Yeah. So far, in the time that we have entered the Mongol Empire, you've probably lost like a quarter of your listenership. People are just dropping out, throwing up.
What? Oh, come on.
How do we get the hell out of this land?
No, they've heard worse on this
Okay,
show.
fine.
They're used to it. I have hardened
All right.
listeners, battle hardened, like the Mongol military.
All right. Well, then let's pay our respects to Kublai Khan. What happened?
His ass died in 1294, and since when he died, it was basically turmoil, and the Mongol Empire was permanently fragmented. And I'm skipping a lot of history here because we don't have all day, but that's the gist.
They're like the Beatles. They fragmented and they went there.
You know what? That was the next note I had. I've written down the Mongol Empire is just like the Beatles, and Kublai Khan was John.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we really understand the Mongol Empire.
So
I'm going to think a lot more about them than the Roman Empire. I'm going to have to make some room in my Roman Empire thinking.
Yeah, I think us here in North America, we kind of, we have this bias, if you will, toward Western empires like the Roman Empire and others we'll talk about. But we kind of discount the success of the Eastern empires. What the fuck is going on over there?
Nothing. It's all good. Don't worry about a thing.
What was that noise? Brad's camera, I can't see him, so I don't know what that noise was, but I'm worried.
It's good. Don't worry about it. It's important to be hydrated.
Wow. Okay. The only way I know how to move on is to get you to guess something else.
All right, let's guess something
And by the
else.
way, if you're wondering, I have extensive notes on the top 5, but the bottom 5 we'll go through more quickly.
Fair enough. I have a question. I've written down one, but I think of it. I know it's a dynasty. It's a Chinese empire.
That counts.
Okay, a dynasty. A dynasty does count.
Yeah, I think there can be dynasties that aren't empires, but in this case, it is.
Okay, the Qing dynasty, but spelled with the Q, Qing.
Qing dynasty, the Qing dynasty. Do you think that is above or below Russian and Mongol empires?
Well, it's got to be below.
Does it?
Because I think I already know what number 1 is. And I know it cheeses you off when people just go ahead and just barrel through with number 1. So I'm going to hold off on my number 1 guess.
It does cheese me off.
So obviously the Qing dynasty is somewhere further down the list. It's at least number 4.
First of all, I'm going to start calling you Brad Cheese Choma.
Oof. Okay. I don't know what to do with that. What can you tell me as far as how much... Because I know it was China, and I think it was like the Koreas, and can't even think of like Mongolia and all these little areas that kind of got absorbed into it during that time.
Mongolia, you're a little area according to Brad. Wow, damn, shots fired.
Sorry, Mongolia.
Our vast listenership in Mongolia. Well, let me tell you. So the Qing dynasty, spelled with a Q, is number 4. You were right. At its peak, it covered 11% of the world's dry land. It was around between the 17th and 20th centuries, and it is also known as the Manchu dynasty. It was the last imperial dynasty to rule China. The last of an era before kind of modern China started to emerge. It began in 1644 when the Manchus invaded China and overthrew the Ming dynasty and installed their own dynasty. When the Qings took over from the Mings, that was a very bloody transition, which we actually covered in our episode 230, where you and I covered the deadliest man-made events. Over 25 million people were killed during that.
God, that was horrific. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting so much nostalgia talking about all these millions of dead bodies.
I like how you can't come on the show without us talking about death and dismemberment.
It's almost,
horror.
It always finds its way. It always finds its way there every single freaking time. Just, you know what? Give me a topic.
Mm-hmm.
Just lob me an ice cream, best ice cream flavors or something one time, and let's see if I can keep it blood free.
I have the host of the Doomsday podcast on here. I got to do something doom and gloom. I got to. It's just the way it is.
All right. Well, okay. Let's continue then.
The most successful ruler of the Qing dynasty was Kaxi, who ruled from 1654 to 1722. He was the longest reigning emperor in Chinese history. The long reigning empire funded surveys of China that led to the making of the most extensive maps of the country at the time. His policies were also quite favorable to the masses. He lowered taxes and instituted policies that were favorable to farmers. and food in China was plentiful, and the country's exports rose dramatically. Under this guy, this is Kaxi, and it's spelled Kangxi. The Qing dynasty was responsible for tripling the size of China in comparison to the territory under the Ming dynasty. However, unlike the Mongols, apparently, the Qing dynasty did not create a climate that was conducive to the growth of arts, culture, and literature. In fact, literature and the arts endured significant censorship under under Qing rule. Books were routinely banned, and theaters were shut down. Chinese society in general became more rigidly conservative. Penalties for homosexuality were stiffened, as was the demand that women remain, quote, pure, which led to the mass refusal of men to accept previously widowed women as their wives. The result, listen to this shit. The result was a substantial increase in suicides of widows.
Jesus.
And special homes had to be created to house widows where interaction with men was strictly prohibited.
Wow. And how, okay,
So,
remind me one more.
Not a good time to be a lady in the Qing dynasty.
What kind of year would this be, roughly?
It began in the 1600s and ended in the 1900s.
Crazy.
Early 1900s. Women have had it tough for all of history.
So really what I just heard you say was that this is still a policy up into the 1900s and under this rule that women in the 1900s are treated this way because nothing ever changes.
I don't know when this stuff stopped. I don't know if it lasted the full length of the dynasty. Kind of leaves that ambiguous. But yes, if it did, if these policies lasted until the end of the dynasty, then it lasted until the year 1912.
Well, I really hope that you're wrong.
Yeah. So their decline began in the 1800s. They had a bunch of wars against China and the British. Finally, the Qing dynasty faced internal dissent in the form of several rebellions, including the Taiping Rebellion, which we also covered on our Deadliest Man-Made Events episode. Mm-hmm. And finally, the many rebellions led to the abdication of the throne by Emperor Xuantong in 1912, ending the dynasty for good. By the way, that emperor took the throne before he abdicated it. He took the throne at the age of 2, and he was 6 years old when he left the throne.
Why'd he leave?
He gave up the throne from rebellion. I don't know. I did a little looking on him, and he ended up being involved in like the government of China into the 1960s and shit. But I just I know there's like traditions of like, well, he's the next heir in line. He's got to be next, even if he's 2 years old. But you know what? Maybe build in a little wiggle room. They got to be. I know they did that with King Tut too in Egypt, right?
Oh yeah, he was super young.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't 2, but he was like, I think 9 or 10. What do you think a 2-year-old is most concerned with?
Oh, like a 2-year-old? So they know what their hands do. They can make noises.
Yeah.
They're what, toddling at this point?
No, their biggest policies have to do with increasing the interesting noises happening around their throne.
Yeah, and
peekaboo.
Yeah, and where did you go? And try not to get upset when you fall on your own bottom. And diapers. Yeah. And diapers. Yeah. And always wearing diapers. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, that means someone's changing the emperor's diaper several times a day. What else you got? That's it for the Qing dynasty.
All right. Let's kind of stay in the same geographical area. I know there was a Persian Empire.
Maybe, but they're not on here.
Okay. I know there was one that kind of had Persia as a part of it. It used up basically like modern day Iran and Iraq all the way across to Casablanca, right across like Egypt, Libya, all the way across the top of Africa and a bunch of stuff. And the word that I have written down is most likely pronounced Ugmuggy Empire.
Wow.
Is that in any way?
Ugmuggy.
Yeah. Is there anything that in any way sounds like it maybe has the same number of consonants, maybe?
There is one that starts with a U.
Okay.
And it's spelled, I would pronounce it, and I might be saying it wrong, but I would pronounce it Umayyad. Umayyad.
Say that again.
Umayyad.
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 Wow, I do not know that.
And it has a second word, which is caliphate. So it's Umayyad Caliphate.
What the? Okay.
Look, I don't know much about this one. but it is number 8. At their peak, they covered 8% of the world's land. They were around in the 600s and 700s AD. They encompassed much of Middle East and North Africa. At their peak, they had 29% of the world's population under its rule. And they were actually very instrumental in introducing Islam to many parts of West Africa and developing Islamic culture during its rule. But they finally came to an end after being conquered by number 7 on the list. So they are number 8. And number 7 is another Middle Eastern empire that overthrew them in the 8th century AD.
Here's my question. Right off the top, you said that the British Empire was 26%.
I did not say that, sir.
I wrote it down. And you said, and then you just said that the Umayyad Caliphate is 29%.
No. I said that the Umayyad Caliphate had 29% of the world's population, but their land area was 8%.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
And British Empire, I did not say those words.
I'm almost sure you did. Anyways, we'll find out. We'll find out. So that's got to be way the hell up there. I'm going to guess because I haven't guessed a position here. Actually, you know what? Nick, you broke your own rule. You let me get through the entire Qing dynasty, and you never made me guess what position it was. Nick, has this ever happened before?
You just forgot or didn't write it down. Oh my God, you are so full of shit. I told you the number of the Qing dynasty.
Which one was it?
It's number 4.
Damn it.
I want to go to number 7 because they're the ones who conquered number 8, the Umayyad. I don't think you're going to get it, so I'm going to tell you. It's Abbasid Caliphate.
The Abyssinian.
Abbasid.
The Abyssinian Empire?
Abyssinian. You knew that one?
I have it written down right here.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they had beef with the Umayyads.
They took them out. They eradicated them.
Damn.
And the Abyssinians then ruled for the next 800 years.
That's 800 years.
Yeah.
So from the 700s or 800s?
Yeah, from the 700s to the 1500s.
Damn.
I think they had the longest span, if I'm not misremembering one.
That's a long-ass time. What kind of area did they rule?
They ruled over 8% of the world's dry land. It was during the rule that Islam's golden age began. At its peak, the Caliphate's territory stretched from the western border of India in the east to the coast of North Africa in what is now Algeria in the west.
Oh, that's a lot. How far south did it go?
Doesn't say.
All right.
But
it's a lot.
Probably somewhere south. And by the way, they were finally conquered after the Ottoman conquest of Egypt in the year 1517.
Gonna have to try to remember all of those words that you just said. That's crazy. Wow. I didn't know this. That's really something. Damn.
I agree.
All right. I can only be so impressed by a thing. I want to keep guessing. I want to move
Impress me with a correct guess.
All right, let me try. Okay, let's go to Europe. And who do I think of? I think of I think of the ocean, the ocean-going countries. So I'm going to start with Spain, the Spanish Empire.
The Spanish Empire is number what?
9? 6?
Final guess. 5. The Spanish Empire, which is number cinco. Isn't 5 cinco? Uno, dos.
Unos, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis. Yeah. Number 5 is the Spanish Empire with 10% at their peak of the world's land area. They were around a long time too, about 500 years, from 1492 to, according to this, 1976, which would mean it's definitely far and away the most recent empire.
1976?
Actually, I take that back. I forgot about number 1. Number 1 is a more recent empire.
All right, that's a good guess.
But the Spanish Empire was one of the longest lasting and most powerful colonial empires in world history. It began with the 1492 arrival of Christopher Columbus and continued for over 3 centuries. The Spanish Empire would expand across the Caribbean islands, half of South America, most of Central America, and much of North America too. And later parts of Europe and North Africa would also be included. Its legacy can still be felt to this day. For example, many nations throughout these regions have adopted Spanish law, language, and architecture. Think of all the countries around the world that are far away from Spain. Think of how many of those countries speak Spanish. Right here in North America and South America, there's a lot of them. In fact, Spanish is the second most spoken native language in the world.
Well, actually, on that point, what I can't stop thinking about is they would be the first empire to actually fulfill that thing in the description about having to include multiple countries not connected geographically.
Right.
And I feel like everybody else on the list so far are connected geographically. I don't know if there's any...
Pretty close, if not entirely.
Yeah, but this is the first time that people have actually traveled oceans to assume rule over some foreign land and a foreign people.
Number one is the same way. We'll get to it.
Yeah, I suppose if I'm right, that may be true. Wow.
And I mentioned the language, but also architecture, law, all these things, religious, political, cultural, urban, architectural. The legacy of the Spanish Empire still felt throughout the Western Hemisphere. And an important cultural legacy of the Spanish Empire overseas is the Roman Catholicism, which remains the main religious faith in Spanish America and the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
Christian evangelization of indigenous peoples was a key responsibility of the crown and a justification for its imperial expansion.
Yeah.
They used the spread of Christianity as their reason for invading foreign lands and slaughtering everyone and taking over.
Not to defend it, but it's easier to do when you're doing it in what you believe to be in the name of some righteous, preternatural cause bigger than yourself, like something religious, something necessary, something good and holy and pure and whatever, and noble. I don't think that the rest of these empires that we've talked about on the list that are higher than the Spanish Empire had a religious need to do what they had done, to build what they have built. It was more of a kind of just a crazy leader saying, "Go, make it so."
The crazy leader figurehead still applies to the Spanish Empire, but they did have the religious justification, in their mind, justification that the others did not seem to use. And it's interesting that so much of the modern world is Christian or Catholic. All of that is the result of conquering empires, like forcing religion upon the lands hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
And we see why they did it, because it lasts to this day, and it will last till a meteor wipes us out.
Yeah. God, I'm going to have to do an episode on that now.
Yep. So that's the Spanish Empire. We know you like to listen to Tennis Podcast, but now it's time to wear it. Tennispod.com/merch has all of your merch needs. We have new designs that let the world know you're a sidekick host, or that your loved one should just go ahead and unsubscribe. All these and more are available to wear on your tight little body right now. We also have designs for the licking machine, your body elves, and many others. We even have one that proves you have one hell of an ass. We have shirts available for all sexes and multiple colors available, as well as mugs, hoodies, and hats. And to help you get started, I have a special discount for you. Use promo code BUTT for 10% off your next order. That's promo code BUTT at tennispod.com/MERCH. Don't be a butt. Shop now. You just need numbers 10, 9, 6, and 1.
Oh, for God's sakes. All right. I think I know number 6.
What's that?
So I picked Spain because I was thinking of seafaring European countries, and their neighbor is France. So I'm going to say France. I'm guessing France, and I'm going to go ahead and guess without knowing too much about the actual French Empire. It's kind of another blank spot in my knowledge base. I know that they had islands throughout the Caribbean. I know that they had a big chunk for the longest time of North America. I know that they have African nations, tons and tons of African nations. A lot of places, and you don't really think of them for that. In North America, we don't really think of France that much, actually. Surprise. But
I think of French fries all the time.
Oh, damn. I'm wrong. I take it back. I apologize. You are right.
France, you nailed it. It is number 6. It's the second French colonial empire. This is the one it either kicked off or came immediately following Napoleon Bonaparte. They had 9% of the world's dry land area only in the 19th century. Really, you hit it all. Africa, Caribbean, the Americas, the South Pacific. They had a bunch of islands everywhere. And a lot of these territories remain French influenced.
Mm-hmm.
French is part of their local culture, their languages, etc. A lot of places in the Caribbean that still speak French. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I had on the French colonial empire, the second French colonial empire in particular, which was number 6.
Not bad. You know, I'm going to say, I've had a good time on the show so far.
Napoleon,
I've learned a lot.
The movie?
Did I see Napoleon Dynamite, the movie?
No, Brad. Not Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon with Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, I haven't actually heard it. I haven't actually seen it, but I've heard wonderful things.
Same.
I would like to see it. I feel like it's the kind of film that you see in an airplane, if that makes sense.
It really is. I saw someone watching it on an airplane, actually.
Oh, bingo, right there. Maybe I can watch it on an airplane when I finally take that plane ride out to come smother you with a pillow like we talked about earlier in the episode.
I'm still waiting. I leave my front door unlocked every night, hoping that you'll show up.
That's great policy.
Open door policy here. I want to make it as easy as possible. No barriers of entry for you to come in.
I feel like what I just heard was I've connected a shotgun and a folding lawn chair and a bunch of tape and rope to a screen door at an address which I'm willing to share. You son of a bitch.
Something like that. Okay, so you need 10 and 9. They're both Chinese.
Oh, for God's sake. Okay. We did the Qing Dynasty. We talked... Oh, Ming Dynasty.
I think I forgot to put it on here, but I believe it was number 11 or 12. But no, it is not on here.
Dang it. Yeah, you're going to have to help me out with some kind of really clever clue, like a rhymes with or something. Number 10.
This one rhymes with... I can't even tell you a rhyme. It starts with an X.
Oh,
Anything
the Jing, the Z, is it, does it have an A in it? Is it Xiang?
Close. It's Xiongnu.
NU. Okay. The Jingu?
It looks like I'm really bad at pronouncing things like this, so apologies to the listeners, but to me, it looks like Xiongnu Empire.
I just did a quick pronunciation check because, I feel like we are casting guesses far afield, just all over the linguistic map with these options. Terrible.
We're going with it.
Okay. You said it.
It's number 10.
Commit. Go.
8% of the world's land area. They were 3rd century BC to 1st century AD, and at its height in the 2nd century BC, the Xiongnu Empire's territory stretched from the Manchurian region of present-day China to about the eastern limit of Central Asia and centered on the Mongolian Plateau. The empire lasted until the 1st century AD when the Han Dynasty of China defeated it, and there were no more after that.
All right, fair enough. So wait, where are we on the list? Oh, number 9.
Number 9. It's also Chinese. It rhymes with... I can't do a rhyme with this. It starts with a Y.
Ying?
Close enough. Yuan. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's spelled Y-U-A-N. Yuan? I don't know. But the Yuan Dynasty, I don't fucking know. Don't come at me. I'm trying my best. They're number 9.
Is that really
also
your
8%.
best?
They ruled...
You couldn't have looked it up. Maybe
how would
just,
you fucking say it, Brad Choma?
Burned 4 calories to look it up just to go type into your phone real quick before the episode.
Bradley,
is this
the
really
fucking hours I put into this research,
really
I don't... Oh, God damn it.
Hours?
Fuck you.
You couldn't invest another 7 seconds? Oh, it's 17 hours and 7 seconds? No, screw that. 17 hours, that's all you're
Pronounce it for me.
Who, me?
You tell me what you think it is without looking it up. Y-U-A-N.
Well, what you're telling me is Juan, which makes it sound like it's the Mexican Empire, which I'm pretty sure... Well, hell, how would I know? Maybe it's number 70 for all I know. There's so many freaking empires, evidently.
Number 70, the Yuan Empire from Mexico.
Exactly.
No, this is Look, I don't. It's probably pronounced wrong, but I'm just going with one. Okay, starts with a Y.
Just so
though.
irresponsible.
Now you've given me no choice but to fucking look up how this is
All
pronounced. We're wasting the listeners' time now while I look this
such
up.
a waste of time
Hope you're
educating
happy.
people properly. Come on, Nick.
Yuan.
Okay, I get it.
Yuan dynasty. All right.
Yuan.
I was close.
You were very
Yuan and
close.
Yuan, that wasn't that far off.
You danced all around it.
God damn. You would have thought I said, Billy dynasty or Cake dynasty or something, but no, I was only off by like the tiny bit.
You were basically through a almost perfect horseshoe.
Well, look, I don't even want to talk
that.
about it anymore. They
So whose hearts did they break? What did they do wrong?
they were taken over by the Ming dynasty.
And
so the Yuan dynasty preceded the Ming dynasty, and then the Ming dynasty preceded the Qing dynasty, which is number 4 on the list. So
it's a real ship of Theseus over there, just new name, but just old boss, kind of the same as the new boss, same as the old one, and
the same as the new boss.
Yeah. So where are we?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, we just need number 1.
Oh, for real?
And we're now at number 1. Do you know it?
I think I do. And you know what? I have no funny way to say this. So what I'm actually going to say is that there's nothing funny about the British Empire. Is it the British Empire?
You got that right, mate.
Aye!
The British Empire is number 1.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, wait. Is that French?
I don't know it sounds British to me. The British Empire, at its peak, 26% of the world's dry land area. It ran for exactly 500 years, 1497 to 1997. Although by the 1990s, it wasn't still like, waging war to take over territories, but you know what I mean. It's by far the largest empire in history, both in terms of population and territory. People used to say the sun never sets on the British Empire because the empire consisted of colonies all over the world.
That is what they said.
Now, in the early 17th century, the English had a very powerful navy that proved its military prowess with the defeat of the Spanish Armada in the year 1588. The English used this navy to begin exploring the so-called New World. We talked about, crossing oceans. Now, the British did that for sure. Over the course of the 18th century, the British would expand their holdings in North America and the Caribbean. And by the late 18th century, they had colonized Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific. Finally, they also took over, obviously, the 13 American colonies until they were defeated by George Washington and the rest in the Revolutionary War. After the Revolutionary War, the British focused on expansion in Africa and Asia. And as they expanded their empire, they also brought fundamental changes that would affect the entire world. For example, in 1807, the British outlawed the slave trade. As a result, the slave trade all but came to an end by the mid-19th century. Slavery was still, a thing, but not slave trade, apparently. Let me pause there. Any comments on any of that?
Nope.
How different would the world look if the Americans had lost the Revolutionary War?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple book series right there, just exploring that as just a mind puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yes.
Hell yes, he says. Okay. Brad is pro-British Empire.
I don't know what to say. I don't know that I'm pro-British Empire per se.
Who ruled Canada during the British rule of the American colonies?
Would it be King George?
That's British, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because Upper Canada was British for the longest time. And we're still a British, I want to say protectorate. Yeah, you know what? I'm too tired to explain our relationship with the Queen and what it means, but we are basically a British territory. You're
British light.
Yeah, we've got the king now on our money, but otherwise we don't really have we don't have a real a phone relationship. You know that one grandparent you have that you never talk to on the phone? That's England
My
to us.
grandparents are dead, Brad. You son of a bitch.
So you don't talk to either of your grandparents on the phone is what I'm hearing. I'm very sorry, Nick.
Well, I did have them put a phone in there, and I do talk to them from time to time, but they don't talk back.
Oh, well, that's healthy sounding. Good.
And I did make sure their butts were donated to classrooms all over America. But enough about that. Let me wrap up British Empire. They were at the forefront of the Industrial Revolution. And by the 1870, the United Kingdom was the sole industrialized country in the world, producing 30% of the entire world's industrial output. So they were a huge powerhouse. And the British Empire reached its height of its territorial expansion in the year 1920, and it ruled up to 570 million people. So huge majority of the world's population was under British Empire. But they finally had a big loss in 1947 when India and Pakistan gained independence. After that, British colonies in the Middle East and Africa began achieving their independence, and by the 60s, the UK's possessions in Africa were all but gone, as well as Asia. Today, what is left of the British Empire consists of small islands in the Caribbean and the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. Many former British colonies, including Canada, Australia, New Zealand, still have the British monarch as their ceremonial head of state, and thus the British Empire is all but gone. Let's talk about their legacy, though. Common criticisms of the empire include the use of detention camps in its colonies, massacres of indigenous peoples, and famine response policies. So, British Empire did a lot of good for the world, and they also did a whole lot of bad shit.
Yeah, the spreading of the diseases and the robbing of cultural artifacts and the appropriation of peoples. And yeah, I mean, you could go on for a while. Yeah, it's been a long, it's a really dark diary of
long,
British
complicated history.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Some historians, though, say that the economic and industrial development the British Empire brought resulted in a net benefit to its colonies, which is interesting. I don't know.
Debatable. I guess that's the truth of any of this, is it's all very debatable. But so you said that it was no longer an empire in 97. So they lost Hong Kong in the Happy Valley horse race fire disaster episode I did. We talked about when they lost Hong Kong, right as they lost it, which was in 1996. So basically, as soon as that was done at New Year's into 97, that's it. We're no longer an empire.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they still have some territories that are not on the mainland, But I ain't a fucking expert at everything, Brad.
That's you know what? That's a lot to ask. So you do so much for us as it is. I can't expect you to know everything about every country's needs and wants during their empire phase. Sorry, Nick. We appreciate you, Nick.
Yeah.
We're sorry that
it's okay, Brad.
We abuse you this way sometimes for your time. Thank you for letting us have access to your mind.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right.
I'm going to recap the list, but real quick, there's two other honorable mentions I wanted to give that people may have been wondering if you were going to guess.
Oh, please do.
These are famous, well-known empires. Nazi Germany, technically an empire. Where do you think it ranks? We know it's not in the top 10, but would you guess it's like in the top 25, maybe lower than that? What do you think?
I'm going to say they're in the top 20. Am I correct? Do you know?
Nazi Germany is number 118.
You're freaking kidding. I'm so confused.
At their height, 0.6% of the world's land area.
When they had Hungary and Poland and France and Germany.
And France for a little while, yep.
Yeah, and they were all over like Northern Africa and the Middle East. And oh my Lord. I'm so confused. The more that I have learned on the show.
What's crazy, too, is it was only a 12-year period. It's the shortest-lived empire that I've found. I mean, there might be others out there that we didn't talk about. But this was 1933 to 1945, by far the shortest we've talked about. 12 years. It's funny because the Third Reich, which the Nazis referred to as the 1,000-Year Reich, only lasted 12 years.
Yeah, okay. So the math's not great.
Fuck them. All right, the last one I'm going to talk about is the Ottoman Empire, which was between the 14th and 20th centuries. That is number 23 on the list. So it's actually above the Roman Empire in terms of land area.
I completely forgot that was even a thing until you just brought it up, and because I don't know much about them except for their chairs. That's all I'm really familiar with from their time.
Great chairs for sure.
And chair accessories, footstools, that kind
Well,
of thing.
that's the Ottoman Empire. They only were around for 600 years and were a huge part of World War One. But yeah, great chairs, Brad. You're right.
Thank you.
All right, back through the top 10, we had the Xiongnu Empire. Number 9 is the Yuan Dynasty. Number 8 is the Umayyad Caliphate. Number 7, the Abbasid Caliphate. Number 6, the Second French Colonial Empire. Number 5, or Cinco, the Spanish Empire. Number 4, the Qing Dynasty. 3 is the Russian Empire. 2 is the Mongol Empire. And number 1, with over 26% of the world's dry land at their peak, is the British Empire.
Not bad. You know, I went into this hesitant.
And we got through it in only 9 hours of recording time.
Exactly. Almost the exact amount of time between World War I and World War II we were able to cover this entire thing, which, as I said from the beginning when you made some corny joke about we're going to go do something that rhymes with empire, and I was like, is because it is not my strong suit. It is not my it's not my educational background. But I feel like I learned a lot today.
You did.
And I had a lot of fun with you, Nicholas. So thank you for having me. And now dance me out.
You're welcome.
Sing me out.
And Brad, if you want a cheery list next time, you bring the list and I'll guess it.
Oh, for God's sakes. Okay. Challenge accepted. All right, you're on.
Challenge accepted. All right, Brad, we're going to end this show, but real quick, remind the folks about your podcast. Tell them about it.
Oh, yes. I run a bi-monthly podcast called Doomsday. The best way to find it is to simply search History's Most Dangerous Podcast, which is what it is. What can I tell you about it? We tell disturbing histories from throughout history, disturbing stories of disaster and catastrophe. The weirder, the more forgotten, the more insane, the better. And we teach you hypothetically how to survive scenarios related to the disasters as held within. And yeah, once you become a fan, just let me know, and I'm happy to send you a note and an autograph on a barf bag of your own, just like Nicholas has had every week as part of our
He's
pen.
He's actually not kidding.
We do pen pal back and forth, and I always give him a barf bag.
And I send Brad just barf.
That's true, pretty much.
Which I should really just hang on to it, and I can put it inside the bag once they come.
Either way.
Everyone should go listen to Doomsday. It is legitimately one of my favorite podcasts. Brad will be back again soon. I want to remind the listeners to follow us on social and let us know what you thought of this episode. Hit me up at TennishPod. Tag us in your Instagram story today with that you're listening to us now. Bradley, I'll be back next week with episode 161. And if you listener want to listen to that episode early before anyone else and with 0 ads, go to TennishPod.com/plus and sign up. It takes just 30 seconds.
Thanks,
Brad,
Nick.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you're still listening, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm not even listening anymore. See ya.